This one may be a little controversial. Kiritawayam tarai sote yatira kyota yamanaway. Namaste, welcome, everyone, one and all are one. So a little disclaimer before we begin. Everything that is shared here is one perspective on infinite potential. And every perspective is valid, and every vision and version is perfect. And I'm going to offer one. The only one that I have in this current night, in this current perspective. I'll never offer something that is not experientially true for me. So this was titled False Light or Light False. And we're going to talk about today, because I feel like it's the time is ripe for it. Talking about teachers and teachings, talking about how we consume energy and how we consume information, and the source of that information and the source of a teaching or a teacher. What is the source of their experience so that they are a, quote, authority to speak on a certain subject? And so this thing about false light, it's just a laugh, that game just as I was setting it up. I have been told by some people, I think maybe a couple of times I've been told that I am a false light. I've been told by people that they're very highly advanced and they know things about me that I don't know, and I'm a false light. That's not what this video is about, but I'm just realizing that has come now. But you see a lot of like division and diversion, where this is the true light and this is the false light. This is the truth, and this is like a distortion of the truth. And you can see it in the, quote, just use the broad term, spiritual community. This deepening divide, I see it like on some of these metaphysical ideas and where they come from a pure source, or they come from fallen angelic, or certain spiritual concepts and ideas are distorted in a way, that a lot of people follow, and they have been distorted in a way. Again, everything is ultimately true, false, and neither. But I'm giving one perspective on infinite potential. So when I share what I'm sharing, what is shared through me, I only share what I've directly experienced, what I'm experiencing, or I have experienced in this life. I'm not a teacher. I'm definitely not a teacher. I have always just shared in the moment exactly what is happening, good, bad, ugly, quote, quote, quote. And I've shared experiences that I've went through in life that have impacted, I suppose every experience impacts us in some way, but that they have changed me or given me a new perspective. And then I have this role as a messenger, where I have somehow come to be this bridge between highly evolved non-physical beings that give a much, much broader, expanded view of reality, way beyond our natural human experiences. And so whenever I've, since it's expanded recently, actually, I thought, so the last book, when I was released from child prison at 16 years old. I spent I spent 12 years in child prison for a crime I did not commit. And then I was released at 16 years old. But I remember I stopped reading books. When people know you were told to read books, I hated being told what to do. I still do. Little Martin hates it. But I stopped reading books somewhere in that child prison term. I think the last book that I read was like Roald Dahl, Matilda. I always remember that. And then sometime in my 20s, I didn't read any books. And then it was sometime in my early 20s, I was going to New York with an ex-girlfriend. And I was at the airport, I think I was at the airport, and I saw the book, The Da Vinci Code. And something told me to get it. And so I started reading it on that flight, and I could not stop. And that was the first book that I read since Roald Dahl, Matilda, so from sometime in my child prison days. I don't know what it was. And amazingly, I didn't remember what that book was like. I just remember I couldn't stop reading it. And just literally in the last couple of weeks, I've realized what that book was about. It's all about the Divine Feminine, Mary Magdalene, the bloodline of Yeshua. It was just so crazy. Of course, at that time it wouldn't have gone down. It was just the thriller ideas and the suspense. But that actually, I realize now, was I thought my wake up book was Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, which is way later than that, maybe 16, 17 years later. Now I realize that the Da Vinci Code book was seeding so many things that I had no idea about. But anyway, that's by the way. I have no idea why I'm talking about that. Get me back on track, please. So that was the wake up book. Why was I sharing that? It's completely off the track now. There must be some reason. No idea. I'll have to just jump back on. Anyway, so everything is shared by direct experience. I was an addict for 20 years, so I share about alcohol, I share about drugs, I share about life transformation, body transformation, my toxic body. I was overweight, a toxic liver, I was like really close to death a couple of times because of alcohol. And I went through so many different diets to what I thought was to fix my physical body, and I've experientially tried so many different things in healing the physical body, like so many things, and I've done them. So I share a little bit about those things, not a lot, but I share about those things. I share about the experiences that I had as like an addict, and the experiences of alcohol, the experiences of drugs, the way that it changed me, the way I see it now, the way that addictions have continued. They've just moved into another form, like being addicted to spirituality, for instance. And so I can speak about those things very easily, because I'm speaking, it's not coming from, some book. It's not coming from something that I learned externally. It's something that's internal. I've experienced it in this life. And let's say, so this contact, this role that I have as a messenger, I could be a messenger for the message, and have been a messenger for the message, that everything in life is completely neutral. And I know within the fiber and the core of my being that is true. On the highest level, everything is neutral. Nothing has an intrinsically positive or negative meaning. Everything is neutral. In spirit, everything is neutral. And that is not the experience for the vast majority of humans for the vast majority of the time. So giving a very high spiritual concept of everything is neutral, which is true. So let's just go to the real. So let's say rape, child abuse, alcoholism, drug abuse, murder, all of these things are in the highest spiritual level neutral. Starving children because of war is neutral in the highest spiritual view. And if I give that, let's say I say from the highest spiritual view, there is no starvation, there's no abuse, there is just spirit and free will expressing itself and allowing itself to be expressed in whatever way it is, and that appears as all of those things mentioned. If I share that, and I could give I'm not going to go into it, but I could give high spiritual ideals to show why that is, and truly believe it, and know that it's true on the highest level. But if I'm to give that, and I've not experienced that, so for instance, someone like Kaya Ra, who is the author of the Sophia Code, she was born into a child trafficking, she was literally born into child trafficking. She was used as a sex slave for most of her life. And then she came through it, miraculously came through it, and then became this messenger of that very powerful codex, that book, the Sophia Code. So let's say I one day come out of meditation and know that child trafficking, child abuse, these sorts of things are inherently neutral, and I go out and share that, even believing and knowing that it's true from the highest level, and I share that and then beside that, Kaya Ra, who was born into this and lived most of her childhood through this and came out of it, shares her experiences of that. Which do you feel would be more, and let's say on the high, like, it's true, it's true, everything's true. Which do you feel has more substance behind it? Me giving a high spiritual ideal, everything is neutral, nothing has intrinsic meaning, positive or negative, or Kaya Ra coming out and sharing her direct experience of what it was like being born into a child trafficking ring and being her child's body, her as a child being used as this slave basically. And so the reason that I'm sharing this now is I've been seeing recently and feeling recently teachings and teachers and things that are out there that have, quite a few beings watching, hearing, feeling this. And their sharings of these like high spiritual truths, again, not in any way speaking like everything is neutral. Doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter what you drink, doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter, all of these things, highest level is true. And it is seen very clearly, and it's quite obvious that it's coming from beings that haven't directly experienced the things that they're talking about. And it's not even like that it's hidden. It's just very clear. It's like I'm applying this awareness of these very high metaphysical principles to everything, even things that I've not experienced in this life. So I could give a long talk, I could be open and a long talk on how pain, like physical pain, human pain, is temporary. Human pain is a messenger. It's not something bad. I could give long talk about that and how pain is, it's just a temporary thing, and it's in our mind and it's not real. Imagine I tried to give the talk, that same talk, but I applied it to giving birth to children. Imagine I would say, so I'll say that this very high metaphysical principle, pain is temporary, pain is in our mind, it's not real, it's not true. And then I say, and then I apply that to giving birth and saying to every woman that's given birth, that pain that you felt was imaginary, it was all in your mind. And again, I feel and know on the highest level that is true. And for me, as this body, as this expression, and this is another way. So I watched a natural childbirth at a very close, at a very close proximity on our bed beside my wife, and I watched her go through the experience of childbirth. So I've seen it very up close. And I have this awareness, this high metaphysical principle that pain is in our mind and we can transcend pain. Imagine if I tried to give that high metaphysical principle, which I believe is true, and apply it to giving childbirth, because I watched my wife give birth with no, just pure natural, like, meditation, breathing, nothing to dull the experience of that pain. Would that ring true? Would it, again, I could share it in a way that would like really tick all the boxes. But would that really be experientially true for me? And would it have weight or gravitas? Would it have substance behind it? Or I was speaking to a beautiful dear sister yesterday, who actually described this experience that she had, and that the pain was just like unlike anything else that she'd ever experienced. And then it became this ecstatic, blissful experience. Experiential, direct experience coming from a known and felt, direct experience. Or me talking about it because I watched my wife do it, and I have this awareness of this high level truth as this perspective sees it. Which one do you feel? Which one do you feel? That's the question. So this idea of false light or light false, or someone that's teaching something wrong or teaching they're distorted, all of these things are distractions, and they're ways to divide us and ways to keep us separate and ways to keep us separated from what we truly are, which is oneness. And this, you see, in this physical dimension, in this third dimension, this word "and" is so important. And a teaching, an experience that comes from a direct experience, a knowing that comes from a felt, lived experience, has so much more. How do you say this? It's just known in a way that cannot be known through reading it, through watching, through experiencing anything secondhand. Remember, there was an Australian lady wrote an amazing book. This is a good example. Wrote an amazing book. It was the top 5 regrets of the dying. Her name was Bronnie Ware, and she worked as a palliative care nurse. And she, over time, worked with a lot of people that was, in the late stages of life with, I think it was cancer or one of those things. And she would, take care of them, beautiful being, looking after these beings. And over time, she saw these sort of, I think it was 5 patterns, and she wrote a book, like the top 5 things that people regret on their deathbed. And she wrote this book, and it was beautiful, and it was amazing, and a very powerful book. And the messages are amazing. If you haven't seen the book, read the book, it's really powerful, amazing. And she is still alive. Now let's compare her to, it's not about comparison, but this is just given a context. Another lady that wrote an incredible book, and it was around cancer, and it was around her near-death experience. And her name is Anita Morjani. And what happened to her was she got very sick, and she was like terminal cancer, and she was like, sure, the doctors like she's gone. There's no chance. And what happened was she had this death experience, and she watched her death. She was able to listen to everything. She had this what they call near-death experience, and she had this choice to come back, or she came back. I can't remember exactly what it was, and she came back to her body. It was like a miracle as far as medical science is concerned. And she came back to her body, and she had a spontaneous remission, and the cancer completely left. So Bronnie Ware's book came from observing, and it is amazing and powerful and beautiful book, observing dying people and what their regrets were. And Anita Morjani's book was, and her story and her experience was literally dying and coming back and having a spontaneous remission from cancer, and then went on to do their thing. So I think where I'm going with this is that Bronnie Ware's book is an incredible guide for how we live our life now, and by living through what others, when they're facing their mortality, the things that they most thought about on their deathbed, wish they hadn't worked so much, wish they connected more with family, all of these things. But Anita Morjani is talking from a direct experience of that death and then coming back. You see how if they were put side by side, they serve different purposes. But if Bronnie Ware, I'm assuming she's still alive, if she were to speak about what it's actually like to die, have this near-death experience, by observing, like her observations brought a beautiful gift to the world. But can her observations of that match? Again, it's not about competition. It's just like serving different purposes. They're not like one is better than the other. Of course, I'm not saying that in any way, but it's just about what is the source. So of Anita Morjani's experience was she saw in her near-death experience what caused the cancer. And it was things that happened in her childhood and that led, she could see this very clearly. And then she had the experience of dying and then coming back, and then she went and did her thing. So it's like, if we want to know what the source of where a teaching or an experience is coming from, we have to look to what the direct life experience of that being is. Again, it's not better or worse. It's just like, so I've had a beautiful experience with Muji, an amazing teacher. I've been in the ashram many times. Myself and Lace were there many times, and I had just the most incredible experiences there. I just melted, I just disappeared, I was just in tears most of the time. And that dear being is not in the best physical health, and he talks about it himself. And he doesn't have a great relationship with food, and he has diabetes, and he doesn't know. He talks about it. He talked about it in his retreats and talks about these things and challenge. Not he doesn't talk about it in the challenges, but if I were like, if in the world of self-realization, that teaching was so powerful, and being in his presence was so incredibly powerful and transformative. And if I have a challenge with food or a challenge with my physical body, taking the teaching of non-duality, you're not the body, I am not the body, this body is, the kind of coming from that Eastern philosophy that you're not the body, and physical body doesn't really matter. It's just like, in some cases, in the most extreme, it's like a nuisance that you have to get over. If I want to be immersed in non-duality and that teaching, I don't now, because it's evolved and changed, but let's say I have in the past, sat with Muji, but if I have a challenge with my body and food, I'm not going to take that teaching and apply it to this. I'm going to be with a teacher whose lived experiences that they've overcome or come through physical challenges and made it their lived experience to become healthy in that way. And so again, it's not saying that one is better than the other. It's that there's horses for courses, that there's a reason and a season for everyone and everything, and everyone has something for you, but no one has everything for you. And so it's important to see that the source and substance of where a teaching, where a sharing is come from. Again, this is one perspective on infinite potential. Because I'm just constantly curious and I'm constantly remembering, I always make sure that whoever I am, it's constant, whoever I'm remembering from, what they're sharing is coming from their direct lived experience and not just something that was picked up on a weekend course, not just something that they've observed. And again, like in Bronnie Ware's case, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, that is an amazing book. That is a powerful gift. And if I want to know what it's like, well, I know what it's like because I've had my own experiences of these, what I call just death experiences, not near death, it's death experiences. I would be more drawn to Anita Moorjani than Bronnie Ware. And I can use the incredible gifts and insights and observations and the way that she packaged it and put together the Top 5 Regrets of the Dying to make different choices while I'm living in this body. So I suppose the discernment is as to, like, everything is a teaching, everything is a potential, everyone has a potential to give us certain insights and observations. And then there's the lived and direct experience that gives something so much deeper, and it's beyond the individual. When it comes to like this deep understanding, then it goes beyond the individual. We say it's a lived experience, but then it transcends the individual experiences because it can come beyond. It's when it's embodied in that way and then shared, it transcends the individual. Whereas observations and something we learn from a book or even a course, I don't care how long it is, it's still always going to be at the level of observation until it becomes this embodied truth, until it becomes something that is lived and known. So again, this is why false light, light false. There is no false light. There is no, this one's right and this one's wrong. And this AND in capital letters, and the discernment, I feel, is so important now because we all have this ability, this beautiful ability to share anything with everyone all of the time. I feel like just discernment on the source and substance of who it is that we, interact with, consume the information. So information is something that's inside you that is put into a formation for your contemplation. And the invitation for this one, it just happens spontaneously, is not to reject anything and be discerning. Because now the time of expansion is so strong. And as the time of expansion expands, the potential for distortion expands. Because there are many, many, many energies that seeks to divide, that seeks to confuse, that seeks to keep us against each other. And if we say this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, that energy has field day. It loves it. It absolutely loves it. Especially if it's divides in a like a spirit. This is the correct spirituality, and this is the false spirituality. That's like, oh my god, it's like jackpot for this energy. It just like says dinner time, non-stop bonanza feast. So I suppose the what this is about again is not about denying or saying this is like ignoring. It's just about being really discerning in your heart of hearts and what you know is true, and to look to where a teacher or a teaching comes from. Does it come from, so in the first way, does it come from high spiritual ideals that are in the highest level true, but are not a lived and embodied experience by that being? Or are they literally just coming from observations? And again, when I say justice like that's worse, no, I'm glad that Brony Ware example came. It's coming from observations, which can be very, very helpful and beautiful, and can give us insights that, others, everyone can get an insight and a perspective on things that we can't. Everyone has a different way of looking at things, so they can give a fresh perspective on something. So I'm saying just not making it worse, just allowing the awareness to be discerning as to the source and substance of whatever it is that we interact with, and who we call teachers, and who we call someone to followers, following, like someone to follow, and do we use discernment in the heart, discernment in our heart as to where is that coming from? What is, what, because everything's filtered. Everything's filtered to some degree. Everything that's shared here is filtered through the life of this one. Everything. Everything that you experience is filtered through your life experiences, and none are exactly the same. But the invitation here is today is not to reject anything, not make good, not make bad, not make wrong, not make right, but to be very discerning at this time as to who you quote follow, who you see as a teacher or a guide or whatever, is like run it through the heart, run it through the heart, because it's very easy to get taken by captivating good communicators, those who use like this is the other thing that kind of gets me. There's beings that use, and again, not good, not bad, not right or wrong, that use very complicated, this kind of, it's in or out language. You'll either get this stuff or just like complete double dutch to you. And you see a lot of these things that where it's like very intricate, very complicated language, where some people will just look at it as like, what is this? And then others will, does that really unite? Does that, does that bring together? And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with specialized knowledge and like really going to the closest detail of things. It's beautiful, it's powerful, but it's like the discernment of the heart. This complication work for you? Does complication, does having some like inside knowledge, secretive knowledge, language that just is for a very, 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 very few, and it's used outwardly, and it's very clear that there's some who know and some who don't. Just run that through the filter of the heart. Let the heart show you and guide you as to what is for you. And it might be that, and it's amazing. And when you have charismatic, good communicators, they use certain things in human psychology, whether knowingly or unknowingly. They use ways of building authority. There's certain things in human psychology, and that's built up around this matrix of we give authority to certain beings when they use certain types of words and when they use certain types of presentations. For instance, using... No, I'm not going into specifics. There's certain things in the way that they present that we automatically as humans give authority to. And only everyone in their own way can can discern. And this is one perspective on infinite potential, and this is through the filter of my experiences, my traumas, my discoveries, and as one flawed, perfectly imperfect being, remembering my remembering, I'm sharing my perspective in the way that appears for me. And I know there is definitely an experience that I've had in some alternate reality where I was in a place of influence, let's say, and did not use it to the high, that in the way that benefited all. And that definitely is filtering the way that I'm like so completely very, very, very specific on that for myself. And I share it not to tell what people to do. I just share it because it's my experience. And only you can decide and discern and choose what is right for you. So this has been a lot longer than I expected. I'm on the way to the gym, and I'd love to hear any of your experiences of any of this, any challenges to this, any disagreements, agreements, whatever. It doesn't matter. But we shall leave it there. I'm going to go now and do some legs. So hope this has served. If only it has served this one to vent and share some perspectives, that is enough. And maybe it has served you, maybe it hasn't. The intention is always to share authentically the truth that is appearing now for this one, not as the truth, as a truth from a current perspective. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time, from my heart to yours, the divine in me sees, loves, and honors the divine in you. Namaste. We are